Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Corsair 3500X. Now, it's their first one where they've actually got kind of a non-framed wrap-around glass panel front and on the side. I say it's the first one for them, although it's such a familiar design. It does feel like Corsair are yet again a little bit late to the party. I do know though that it takes them a couple of years from design conception to bringing it to the market, but it does feel a little bit lately like they need to speed the process up a little bit, because everyone and their dad has got one of these now, so expectations are quite high. Anyway, we're going to give it a good look around as always and break it all down, but there are three versions that you do need to be aware of. They've got the base model with no fans in it whatsoever, and that is going to be $89 or 84, nearly 85 pounds. And then you've got the ARGB version with 3 ARGB fans in the side, or the front as we'll call it, and that one is $109 or 119 GBP. There is an IQ Link version as well, which I'm going to assume is because I've not seen it, but you're going to have all IQ Link fans and it's going to be ready for lots of IQ Link other stuff, and that is $149 or 169 pounds. So the weight difference with the IQ Link one for USD to GBP seems a little bit off. Now, I've got some very strong thoughts on many aspects of this case. So if you're actually interested in buying it and you're actually interested in what I think and as I'm going to review it and pick it apart, then please do get yourself comfy. Also, if you like the review style, please remember to like, subscribe, comment, do all of those things. Yeah, comment especially, because I do like the feedback. But we're going to need to get down and dirty now because we have a lot of things to talk about. Okie dokie, front and top. We have power switch at the front, reset switch at the back, combined headphone and microphone port. There is an adapter in the box. USB-C to USB-A 3.2 Gen 2s. We come round the back, we can pop the roof panel up. There are just like little poppers in the corner that they clip down onto, and you do have a removable dust filter. If you're going to be running the cases and exhaust, I normally just remove them to help with airflow. You can see offset 120mm fan mounts up to a 360mm AIO. They do have 140mm mounts. You can have up to 280mm in 140mm fan AIOs up here if you want, or just fans. But the critical thing is up to 360 overall, and we can put the top on. Now, the one thing I do like is the mesh everywhere on this case is consistently the same. It's a nice touch, and it's going to give a nice bit of branded identity throughout other models going forward as well. It's something I think they've needed to do for some time. Now, the main kind of event really with the case, other than not being able to see all of it because I've not framed things correctly, is the fact that we have glass on the front and glass on the side. Now, you can remove the glass on the front, although it is easier to do it with the side panel off, but it is removable. It's white framed, clear glass. It's really nice. It's the way the white one should be. Again, on the side, it's the same kind of deal, but on the edge along here, they don't have the frame in, so it looks seamless. It's a nice way of going about it, quite simple. The case still has a fair bit of rigidity, even without the glass on. Yes, I can move it, but it's not massively weakened. It's not creaking and moving all over the place. Like, I can put a fair amount of weight on it, and it's not folding it up like it would do with some other brands. Removing all this glass though does give us a cavernous amount of room to be able to work with, which will be able to help you with your building process. Some people may even want to just leave it open, and other than the clips along the sides, which would be very easy to be able to mask with plastic cards, you could just have it completely open framed if you wanted. Don't think many of you are going to want to, but as I said, lots of room to be able to work to build your system. Exceptionally good if you're going to be water cooling, in that you'll be able to get in here and hardline and stuff. talking about water cooling, it can support up to 10 fans. And that's because you can have 3 in the roof, 3 down the side, 3 in the bottom and 1 in the back, giving us a total of 3 120mm fans. You do have options down the back for 140s again, but it's a maximum of 360 millimeters. It's not quite enough room to be able to get a full fat 420 in. The side fan mount bracket is actually a physical part of the case. It is not removable. So you can't like remove it to be able to add your radiator in or anything, because there's so much room to be able to work around it without the glass. And I don't really think that is too much of a problem though. With the extra fan mounts that I did say to you about, you do have 2 above the power supply, which can obviously be used to cool your graphics card if needed. And if you had a really long graphics card, the one at the front could be used to do that as well. Apart from the one at the front, there is mounts for 120 and 140. Up on the power supply cover, it is just 2 120mm fan mounts, and there are extra long screws that come in the package so that you can screw them in. I do need to talk to you about this area when we get round to the back though, but while we are in the front, one thing I do want to discuss or bring to attention are these fan clips, fan mounts, fan connections, whatever you want to call it. The actual fans for the cables for the fans themselves are quite short, and they are hot swappable. Daisy chain is actually the word I wanted to use, as you can see here. So they daisy chain together, but they are incredibly short and not particularly easy to hide. And I will show you this on the other side, because there's not really a clean way of being able to disguise them. And if I show you at the top, like, they're not really long enough to get on the other side of the case adequately, and it's this one more than anything that is the problem, because if you want to hide them, then they go over here and they're just not quite long enough. Now that we're on the other side, you can see I've clipped all of the connectors in, but they are very tight against the edge. Now from the other side, the business side, it's not too much of a problem. Like, the cables are pulled out the way, but there are no grommets or anything. And I just wanted to say that they, if they had made these, or made the connectors, let's just say a centimetre longer, even just a centimetre longer would have made all the difference, so that we could have clipped things up tidier. But I think 2 or 3 centimetres longer, just to be able to have clipped these fan cables down with the main bulk of cables within the case, would have made things so much nicer and tidier. I mean, I don't particularly like the daisy chain anyway, because it just adds clutter. So I think what we did need to be able to do was make it that little bit tidier. If these were just over here and clipped down where all the other cables already are, we wouldn't have this mess here, and so I don't think it was particularly needed. We do get a better view on this side of the 120 mounts. Again, it's offset, but then we've got the 140 mounts there, up to 280 for 140s, up to 360 for 120s. That's quite easy and nice. Nice and easy, easy and nice. Couple of 2.5 inch solid drive mounts. There is a thumb screw there. I'm not going to say toolless, because I can't get that undone with my thumb, even though it is a thumb screw. But this cable here is something that I do want to talk about, because I'm going to remove it. It is the 8-pin CPU cable. And when I build a system, what I normally do is I have my cable for this clipped all up down the side. And there are mounts here that you can see. There's a little tie down latch here and a tie down latch here. But what I instantaneously went to do with this cable, because there's this brace here, which is basically holding on from the motherboard, and it's just to give the case that little extra bit of strength, and it's basically going to be something along the lines of it helps with the twisting action when the glass isn't on. So I understand why this isn't here, why this is here, but I do want to say something in that. Get my 8-pin cable, and I wanted to put my 8-pin cable up the side of it, because then it acts like a clip straight away, and it's just something simple for you to be able to put cables behind it to hold things out the way. And it's just quite not big enough, to the point where if they'd brought this out lit like 5mm more and brought it in, you still would have had all that extra structure there, but you would have been able to have used it. And at the moment, it may only be a small thing, but it is kind of dead space unless you're going to be using it for thin cables that we can pass through. Not that you're going to put one of these cables up through it, but for a thin cable, it's usable. For a fan cable, you could put it down, but for the actual cables that we know are going to come up the back and up to the 8 pins, they don't fit. And I think that's a bit of a miss from Corsair. They could have made that a lot easier and had it as double use. Now you can see with all the cutouts around the back of the board, it is Project Zero and BTF compatible, which is great. Longevity, that is going to be amazing. But I bring you in to the power supply area, power supply cover. Now you can see there is a small amount of gap above the power supply itself, and there is the ability of putting a 120mm fan above here, and there is the ability of putting a 120mm fan here. Now the majority of us are going to put our leftover cables in this area here that come out of the power supply to keep everything else kind of nice and tidy. But that area at the bottom in front of the power supply is where they are expecting the air to be able to be drawn for the fans on top of the power supply itself. Now, with the power supply itself, what you do need to do is make sure if you fit fans up here, if you fit them and you're blowing them to the underside of your graphics card, you have to remember to have your power supply with its fan pointing downwards. And the reason for that is your power supply fan sucks in and blows out. It's not exhausting into the case. This is the exhaust on your power supply. So if you have a fan above it, they would work against each other. So you have to remember to point your power supply downwards if you're mounting one at the top. Also though, if you're having two 120mm fans at the bottom, it's only this area in front of the power supply that it can actually draw any air from. So this is all just going to be cluttered airflow, and it's really not going to be able to get a lot of air in there at all. So I don't understand why they haven't put some more mesh along the bottom area over here by the power supply, so that when the fans are running, it can still pull air in from the side to push it up inside, because I don't particularly think that this area down here is adequate enough. Yes, it does mean that you're going to be able to see cables through it, but if it is for airflow, then I would suggest that it's fairly important for you to be able to feed these fans with an ample amount of air to blow up into the top. They've not even, when you think about it, made this mesh, because if this was mesh, then there was obviously routes for air to be able to move in from other areas. I just feel that this small section in the bottom, even though it is dust filtered, is not really enough. And by the time you've got cables in there and everything like that, it just feels like a missed opportunity for something that they could have done to make it that little bit better. Now, normally this would be the part where I would moan about this not having a grommet up here to keep things tidy. But because of the BTF mounts and things around the side, you can see around the outside of the motherboard anyway. I do think though that down this side here is a big area that they should have had grommets, because you are going to be able to look through and just see it, and it's just unnecessarily untidy. Sure, you can look through the edges of the motherboard and stuff, but Technically, they could have made a little piece of trim that came up here or something. So there's many ways where I think they could have made it better. But also, what we do need to remember is this is a £89, £85 case to start with, and it's really just the fans that start to add the costing up on it. Now, performance-wise, it did pretty much okay. We test a range of fan RPMs. Our CPU cooler and our graphics card have their fans fixed so that they can't adjust with temperatures, and then we just change the fan speeds from within the case, and we do CPU specific tests, and then we do graphics card specific tests. Graphics card specific test is pretty much gaming. The CPU specific test is OCCT, which is timed, which is just CPU focused. Obviously gaming is some GPU use, a little bit of CPU use. So you get kind of a mixed bag there, and we sort the graphs independently as well, so that you can see kind of how well it did. Now, for £89, I think it's a fairly good buy, and that's probably the one that I would advise the majority of you to go for. I don't really like these ARGB fans because of the cabling, and I do think that they needed to be that little bit longer around here, and I think the majority of you would end up with them on this side like I did to start off with. The IQ stuff, if you're going to buy other IQ parts, then it would definitely be worth getting that and paying that little bit extra, because if you end up with an IQ AIO in there, it'll all sync in, it'll all match, and it will all be hunky-dory, and you can clip them in together and that will be spot on. The cooling above the power supply, don't particularly think that's good enough. It's almost like they added it on for the sake of adding it on rather than it being any good. Same with the kind of fans, really. I do feel like that was a bit limp-wristed, and it feels like someone that has approved it hasn't really built in it that much, because those cables did just need to be that little bit longer and it would have made a massive amount of difference. And I actually think that it should have come wired that way to start off with as well. Like, you buy it from Corsair, it should just be clipped down there. It should just be there from the factory, not as something that you have to do at home. Beyond that, the case is a familiar design. Everyone's got one now. Corsair are just incredibly late to the party again. The actual structural rigidity of the case, though, does go to show you the I want to say the hierarchy, but it's just kind of, you know, it's a Corsair case because it's not weak, it's not flexible, it's not been made excessively cheaply. Like, they've gone to the extra lengths to add things in to try and make it tough, and so that you can use it and move it around without the glass. Overall, it's an okay case. It's a good case from Corsair. It's not a great case from Corsair. The price is pretty good without the fans, but like I said, I'd either buy it without fans or just go for the IQ model. I don't rate the one in the middle because of the fans, and let's face it, if you've got all that glass all the way around, you're going to want it to look pretty, aren't you? And seeing those cables just isn't going to be good enough for me. But let me know what you think underneath. I would love your feedback. Have I been too harsh? Have I not been harsh enough? Did you like the review format? Do you like the fact that the lights aren't blue and red and making pink for a change, and I've made them a weird Armin van Buuren, at the moment, teal colour? But yes, please do let me know your thoughts underneath. Would you like this on your desk? Do you not like the test equipment that I use? Doesn't really matter though, does it? Because at the end of the day, it's just a test case. And the reason why we use an air cooler is because that's much more sensitive than an AIO to airflow within a case, and that's kind of the point. But for now, at least, this has been Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you, even though it's a bit meh. Out. Ding! Love you, sis.